everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm a speech and language pathologist. I'm going to be talking today about supporting disabled students in schools. This is a presentation intended for pre-service educational assistance. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so as we begin, I just want to remind us that we're paid staff. We are not family. There's different levels of touch that are appropriate, or the way that we touch people is appropriate or not, depending on what circle they belong in. We touch our family, you might touch your spouse differently than you touch your friends, definitely touch your spouse different than the way you touch your boss and acquaintances and so on. And there is a few rings distance between family and paid staff. Think about your doctor. You don't kiss your doctor and hug your doctor. You maintain a certain boundary and physical distance from them. And we have to do the same for our students, because we really don't want to blur those lines around who can touch them and who can't, because we're teaching them from a really young age that really anybody can touch them and anybody can have control over their body. We want them to learn that their body is theirs and they get to choose who can touch it and when. So we don't want to confuse that for them, and we want to keep it really clear that we're there to help and support them, and we can care for them and want the best for them at school, but that doesn't involve hugging and kissing them. Robbie Blaha says it best about appropriate touch. She says, we're a walking curriculum. The way that we touch our students is how they are going to interpret touch and touch others. So if we constantly have our hands on them, they're learning like, oh, anybody can touch me. I don't really get a choice, like, oh, my hat's on now. Oh, my glasses are on now. People have, especially little kids, they have their hands on them all the time. And we really want to think about touching them appropriately and teaching them how to touch others through the way we touch them. This is an example of something that I see a lot. You might have a student who has a lot of stability in their trunk, can't sit on the floor and circle time independently. So you might think, oh, I'll just support them. I'll put them in my lap and support them that way. And of course, there's no ill intentions around this, but I really want you to just stop and think, in a situation like this, if you looked around the room, you'd see no other students sitting in an adult's lap. We want our students to be kids and not to be, coddled and cuddled like babies. We want to make sure that we're setting them up to be independent and being an independent student during their school career. Often their peers can think, especially when they're little and we're touching them a lot or we're holding them on our lap, their peers can think that they're babies. And I have heard this in classes. Kids will kind of ask you and be like, why is so-and-so a baby? Or why don't they talk? Are they a baby? And part of it is the way that we're touching them and kind of treating them like a baby, or sometimes speaking to them like they're a baby. So we want to be really mindful. We want to treat them just like everybody else in their class. There's a simple solution for this. If they can't support their own trunk, get them a chair. That's, it's the easiest thing. We don't want to have them in our lap. We want to have them sitting there on their own, being a part of the group, and then we can be there supporting them, with their AAC device or helping them in ways that they need to be a part of their class. Of course, there's no ill intentions when we are trying to help our students in these ways by, having them sit in our lap. But I like this perspective from Alex. This is a tweet from Deaf on Four Wheels. And he says, one part of a severely disabled life that non-disabled folks might not consider is burnout from constantly being touched. He says, I adore and appreciate my aides, but maintaining a feeling of bodily autonomy when you need help with everything can be a challenge. If you're significantly physically disabled and you need a lot of support from people, you have people touching you all the time. Our little kids, people constantly have their hands on them. So just think about that, and think about even for our autistic students, who might have really strong aversions to being touched. We don't want to just be putting our hands on them. If we need to touch them, we want to be asking for consent. We want to be teaching them this, that right from the beginning. They're never too young to be learning about consent. And we want to really like incorporate this into kind of our way of being at school. If you're helping a kid put their glasses on and their hearing aid on or zip up their winter coat, it's really easy and quick to just say, hey, can you put your glasses on? If your student can't respond verbally or they don't have the aided symbolic ability yet to tell you yes or no with their AAC system, you can tell them, hey, I'm going to put your glasses on, and you can wait. And then you can see how they respond. Do they turn away? If they turn away, you can be like, okay, I see you turning away. I'll wait. I'll come check in a minute and see if you're ready to have them on, or if they're just kind of like looking happy and ready, you can be like, yeah, I see you smiling. I'm going to take that as a yes. I'm going to put your glasses on now. So even if they don't have the verbal ability to respond or the symbolic ability with AAC, we can still ask for consent. And we have to do this with everything. Every time we're going to touch them, if we're putting a blanket on them, we're putting their clothes on them, we have to be asking for consent. We have to be showing them all the time that people have to ask to touch them, and they get to decide who touches them and who doesn't. You might be thinking, like, why do we need to be doing this? It's no secret that the prevalence of abuse is much higher in people with disabilities. So it's so important that we are teaching them right from the beginning, they get to choose. So we're not setting them on a path to be made vulnerable by the ways that we've been teaching them. I love this. And I'm just thinking right now, I can't remember if it's from Inclusion Outreach, if it's their model, or if it's the provincial outreach for the deafblind. I'm not sure which one it is, but one of them have this great motto. It says, we're doing things with them, not for them or to them. So we're not putting their clothes on them. We're not doing things to them. We're doing things with them. And part of that is, asking for consent, being a partner in doing these things together. Inclusion Outreach, they also have this great analogy that they talk about called your students not having a fairy godmother. So any of these meaningful routines in school, like everybody's going to hand in their work at the front of the class, we're going to help bring our student up to the front of the class so they can hand in their work. People are going to collect their scissors and their markers and get ready for learning their next activity. We want to make sure our students doing those things as well. And we're helping them to do them if they need help. We don't want these things to just like, oh, it's math time, and then all of the things I need just like poof appear in front of me. We want to help. We want them to be able to get themselves set up so that they can be being a part of that routine of getting ready to learn. Okay. And we're there, sometimes we think, if you're just becoming an educational assistant, you might be thinking, like, I'm there to support them in their academic goals. That's absolutely true, their academic work, but you're there to support them in their school life as a member of their school community. And a part of that is academics for sure, but another huge part is peer and social interaction. So we want to make sure that we are helping to facilitate that for our students. Recess isn't a time to play one-on-one with them. It's a time to help them play with their friends. It's also not a time for us to like go wheel our student over to the circle of adults who are chatting and having coffee. Our job is to be helping our students integrate and play with their friends. I've seen this a lot, like a group of adults all chatting, standing around, and the student in their wheelchair is like their body like completely turned, like looking over at the basketball court, reaching and vocalizing. They're telling us with their whole body, I don't want to be here, I want to be there. And so we got to make sure that we're picking up on those cues and we're setting them up for a lot of peer success and just making sure they're playing with friends, and we're supporting that. We're helping their friends learn how to communicate with them. We're creating space for them to be communicating with each other. That's all part of our role. I love this quote from Lisa Callahoo. She's an amazing educational assistant. And she said this to me. She said, when a student asks me to be their partner, I know I failed them. And I think that just like perfectly encapsulates this message. We are not there to be getting them to be our best friend or to, for us to be like having good control over them because they listen to us. We're paid staff. We're there to help them be with their friends, be successful at school, all of those things. Okay, this is such a pet peeve for me. When people talk about their students in front of them, don't do this. Like I think it's so easy to do this, but just please make a huge effort not to do this. People are always going to talk to you, because you'll be with your student and they'll be asking you things about your student, but don't talk about them like they're not there. They are always listening. They are always there listening. Maybe they don't look like they're listening, but they're hearing the things that you're saying about them. And they're like incorporating that into their like psyche. So we really need to not do this. If you have to share something that you don't want your student to hear, you have to do that privately. You can't do that in front of them. They're not a piece of furniture. Kids are people too. We have to treat them with dignity and respect. We don't get to bypass that just because they're kids. Okay, this reminds me too that sometimes other peers will kind of use you as like a mediator between them and the student. And they might go up to you and talk to you and ask you to ask the student other student questions. Or they might be like, why is so-and-so doing that? And they don't think to just ask the student. So that's another perfect example of when we can really intervene and be like, just ask them, like they're right here. Ask them. Yeah, sometimes students just need to be redirected and they need some practice with that. But they can pick it up usually pretty fast once they've been reminded a few times. Okay, hand over hand. I'm going to be talking about this in the context of AAC because that is my world. This comes up a lot in AAC and I see it a lot and I talk about it a lot with people, but the too long didn't read of hand over hand is don't do it. This is definitely an extension of the conversation on consent. Same thing applies. We're violating their body autonomy when we're just grabbing their hand and making them point to a symbol. And I'm going to talk in a second. We're going to break that down and talk about like why it's not effective right now. So hand over hand doesn't teach communication. Our students have their own ideas. Maybe they don't know how to use their communication system yet, but they're learning. And we're not teaching them to talk by taking their hand. We're just teaching them dependent routines. And whenever we're grabbing their hand, it's us talking, not them. When we're modeling AAC, we can press the button. We don't need them to then press the button too. It's not a strategy that works. And it's so problematic because we're violating them. We want to keep our hands to ourselves. We don't want to grab their hand and use them like a utensil to point to a symbol. It's not doing what you think it's doing. It's just teaching them that we don't respect them and we don't respect their body. And you might think, okay, well, maybe it's not teaching communication, but surely it's teaching motor skills. And this quote from Kate Ahern, she says, neurobiology tells us that hand over hand instruction does not allow the person who is being manipulated to learn motor skills. Does not allow them to learn motor skills. Clear research now shows us that passive observation is better than physical manipulation. So them watching passively and not having their hand used like a utensil, it's better for them to be learning than to be grabbing their hand, making them point. So doesn't teach them communication, doesn't teach them motor skills. What's the third one? Hand over hand violates body autonomy. And this, if the last two weren't convincing enough, this one really should be. This is another quote from Kate Ahern. She says, this leads us to allowing children to have a core belief that they must allow those with power to physically touch and manipulate them. It leads to children believing that other people get to decide what they want and what they say. This kind of prompting also leads to learned helplessness. All of these together set the stage for children to be abused even later as adults. The abuse rate of people with complex communication needs has been measured to be between 50 and 90%. So, I think those are three really good arguments why not to do this. I promise you're going to be tempted, but I hope that if you take anything from today, that you'll know that this is an effective strategy and it's a harmful one. Okay, this is our last piece, age respectful material. I drew this picture because this is a real life example. In a high school class, teenagers being read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Even if those students are at an early emerging stage in their communication or in their literacy, it does not mean that they don't have the life experience of a 12-year-old or of a 16-year-old. We need to be exposing them to what the other kids are consuming, what music their peers are listening to, what videos and books and types of things that their peers watch and listen to. Think about yourself as a 16-year-old, like you definitely weren't interested in reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar, unless maybe you were babysitting a little kid. So it's completely disrespectful. We don't want to do this. We want to make sure that we always have age respectful materials for our students. And sometimes people will be like, well, they're at an earlier reading level, so I need to find things that are appropriate. So that's why I'm giving them these little kids' books. If you really start looking, you'll find a lot of age respectful stuff online that is at an accessible reading level to teenagers or young adults or older adults, but at a level that they can be learning meaningfully, like practicing reading. So I want to just show you a couple examples. So my favorite is a free one. It's called Tar Heel Reader. This is a website made by the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. They have this fabulous website with like hundreds and hundreds of pre-made books. You can also make your own books, super easy to use. I think all of them use photos. So you can make really age respectful books or find a ton of age respectful books for our students. And there's so many of them. So, you have endless supply of books. You can search by topic and find things that your students like or make things with them that they'll like. Pictello app, depending on how you use it, can be age respectful as well. You can use it as a tool to make books with your students about their interests and pull in pictures from the web or take photos of things or people. Same goes for PowerPoint, like another free option as well, or Google Slides, same thing. So, you can make your own stuff and it's pretty easy. I'm going to show you an example of Tar Heel Reader that just shows like if you have a student maybe who's in grade 7 and they're working on their grapheme phoneme correspondence, they're learning the alphabet, we can still show them things that are age respectful. So if your students in grade 7, they're really into fashion, you can show them this book, Fashion A to Z. A is for accessories, C is for catwalk, and D is for denim. So, very respectful. You can make stuff. This is Tar Heel Reader. Like there's tons of stuff like this already made. So the options are truly endless. If you are living in a science of reading paradigm, you can, of course, find catch-up decodable books as well that are age respectful and aren't like little kid pictures. So once you start looking, there's tons out there. There's really no excuses. Yeah. Anyway, okay. I hope that you enjoyed this kind of quick run through of the respect and dignity that we owe our students, regardless of age. I hope you can kind of carry these through with you as you embark on this new journey being an educational assistant. These kids will be adults one day, and we're setting them up to be advocates for themselves down the road. We are such an important part of setting them on this journey. So we want to set them on a good path. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for listening.